Hey, Bristol, what was that last post you made? Oh, so you had a look at that? I knew that a photo of some fancy food like that would really blow up online. I was even able to get 500 likes on it in an hour or so. Huh? There were that many likes on a rude post like that made by you? What? How was that post rude to you? I even asked you before making the post if it'd be okay to use that picture. And considering it was a good one, why wouldn't I be posting it? I'm not actually talking about the photo, but what you wrote about it under the photo. You really went and made me look like an idiot there. Huh? And those hashtags you used are even worse. Hashtag still a single woman and hashtag someone please marry me. You also talked about how you try and sell me to someone if that's what it took. I made that post because I'm worried about you, Katie. You're still in your 30s now and still single, right? I don't want to see my friend's sad appearance any longer. That's why I went and put those hashtags on my post in hopes someone good would come along and find it. I never asked you to do something like that for me, though. What is that attitude from you? I did that thinking I was doing the right thing for you. Sure, you won't ever become the wife of a CEO like me, but at least I was trying to get you with a man so that you could finally have a decent marriage. And I'm saying what you did today was not okay. I already have myself a really good and perfect fiancé that I'm totally happy with. And today I was planning on actually telling you about our plans of getting married soon. What? Is that true? The reason I invited you out for a nice dinner today was in order to do that. But the whole time, all you wanted to talk about was yourself. You would always jump into my sentences and make them about yourself, and then would go on and on and on about how happy you are. Because of that, I was never able to get to what I had to say. If that's what you wanted to do, then you should have said something sooner. I never noticed you had anything to say to me. But if you're really going to get married now, that's great. Now you'll finally be able to graduate from being a sad little lonely loser. So would you please go and delete that post you made right now for me? Sure thing. I'll go edit it saying that you're finally getting married. Now, you tell me about the man you plan on marrying. How much is he making a year? What kind of car is he driving right now? And does he have a place of his own, like a house? Hold on, Bristol. What do you think you're doing asking questions like that about my fiancé when you only just learned I planned on getting married to him? Aren't those some important questions, though? If you want to have a happy marriage, you will need to rely on the financial wealth that your husband has for you, right? Oh, could the man you're with be a business owner like my husband is? No, he's just your average office worker. But he's really happy with the type of work he gets to do. And because of that, he was recently looked at by Midori Commercial Affairs. That really is pretty amazing of him. Midori Commercial Affairs is that company where most people go from university to making $100,000 in their first year of working there without a hitch. If that's where he's going to be going, that must mean he really is a big deal. Wait, is it really that amazing of a company? I knew that it was a very famous company and all. You really have a good husband in there, don't you? That must mean that his family's pretty amazing as well then, right? Where is his family living right now? His parents have had a lot of money and properties as well, right? Actually, he doesn't have a father right now. Sounds like from a young age, his parents had divorced and he was left with his mother. What? So he only had a mom growing up? But his mother is a very interesting person. She's a very powerful woman, and to me, she's not only very kind, but the perfect woman. I think her and I will be able to get along really well. Katie, you need to end your plans of marrying that man right now, I think. The worst man you could marry is one that comes from a moneyless and fatherless family like that. What? From what you've told me, he seems to have plans of working at a very good company next and making some decent money there. But if he never had a good enough upbringing, then your future is sure to become rough for you. So I'm recommending you leave that man right now. Don't talk about his upbringing like that. And would you stop calling his mother moneyless just because her husband left her a long time ago? Huh? What kind of an attitude is that now? I'm only being kind by worrying about you like this. I know that a mother-in-law like her will do nothing but cause you pain and frustration as you guys get older. I'm happy to hear that you're worried for me, but you're not helping right now. I happen to really love my fiancé, and I also happen to really respect his mother. So there's no thought in my mind of leaving this marriage we have planned. Is that right? I'm just trying to warn you is all, yet the fact that you're still going to go down that road to sadness makes you a certified idiot. So you're really against me getting married to him now? I wanted to invite you out to my wedding since you're a good friend of mine, and I was planning to have you give a speech for me and everything, but I'm not going to ask that of you anymore. What? Giving one of those speeches would be me standing out in front of everyone to talk about you, right? If that's what you wanted from me, then I'm in. I will definitely be coming to your wedding now. If I can have someone getting a ton of photos of me up on stage giving a speech, that will rocket me to fame on Instagram, won't it? What? I never said I was against you getting married to that man. I just felt bad for you as your friend for wanting to get married to a moneyless man like him. But if you're still wanting to marry him, go ahead and do what you want. Now that means you can still leave that speech you planned on having me do up to me. And make sure there's a really good photographer there during your wedding who will take amazing pictures of me, please.
I made sure to send out all the invites for you. That means we should be pretty much complete with all the preparations for the wedding, right? All we have left to do is make that guest list and set up the chairs and whatnot for all of them.
That seems about right. I just have to finish deciding which dress I'd like to wear and what food we should all have for our dinner there.
By the way, how did things go with finding someone to give a speech for you? I feel you should make up a special invitation just for them if they're going to be the one you choose to rely on, right?
I already have that figured out. I already asked a longtime friend of mine to do it for me. But just in case, I was thinking of asking one other person to act as a sort of a backup, just in case.
What? What do you mean by just in case? If your one friend is already saying they'll do it, then there shouldn't be any issues, right?
When I first asked her to give the speech, she was really into it. But I don't think what she's going to have to say about me is going to be any good. And recently online, she's been saying things like, I don't want to do this after all, and this is a pain in my butt.
She's saying things like that online?
That woman happens to have a lot of secret accounts online. And perhaps she thought I'd forgotten about them all and was posting those things. But even if she's saying things like that about it, I can't just go asking her not to do it for me anymore.
So she doesn't expect that her good friend is looking at what she's posting on that other account? Yet you still don't want to tell her not to bother now?
That's right. That's why, just in case, I'm going to ask one other person to prepare a speech for the wedding. I would hate to have to ask someone last minute to get up in front of everyone without anything prepared for me.
I think that's a good idea, then. I'd hate to put someone else in a nerve-wracking position like that. If you don't trust your one good friend enough, I think it's the right play having someone else ready to give that speech. I just really hope that she gets a grip since she's a friend of yours from when you were both young and really does give an amazing speech.
I hope so too, and that hopefully means that things will be okay. By the way, have you figured out who you want to give your speech, Andy?
I had a friend say that they'd been wanting to give the speech before I even asked anyone. He's a really good friend of mine from university, and the moment I went and told everyone I'd be getting married, he replied wanting to give the speech for me.
That's so awesome. I'm happy to hear that you're still talking with a lot of your friends from then. And if I'm getting this right, I think I know the guy you're talking about. I haven't had a chance to meet him at all, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him at the wedding.
He's a really amazing guy, so I can't wait for you to see him. Let's all have a really good time at our wedding.
I'm sorry, Katie. I'm not going to be able to go to your wedding today after all. So could you please cancel that speech I was supposed to give? What? What's happened that's causing you to have to not show up now? Did you run into some issues on your way out here this morning? Not at all. I just don't want to go now, so I'm not going. I can't be seen at the wedding of some moneyless man. So I wanted to make sure to tell you I wouldn't be coming as soon as possible. What? That's a lie, right? You're just joking about not coming to your best friend's wedding with a reason like that, right? I would never joke about something like this. I won't be coming today, and I will most certainly not be giving that speech today now. Why would you wait until now to tell me this? I get that it was a pain in your butt to have to give a speech and all, but what makes you think you can cancel with only hours left before my wedding? Wow, Jesus. Did you have a look at one of my secret accounts or something? But you couldn't have seen everything I was saying online, right? Everything? I was really wanting to give your speech when you first said something about it, but after that I realized it really was a pain for me. And when thinking about how your husband comes from a mom with no money at all, that really helped seal the deal. I mean, look at me. I married a CEO and am now his wife, right? Which means that for the sake of my husband's image, I have to be more careful of who I'm hanging out with. What? Having said that, you understand what this means, right? If I were to go to the wedding of some moneyless lowlifes, I'd be tripping up my husband. Which is why I won't be getting to your wedding now, and that speech will have to be canceled. That's really mean of you, Bristol. How dare you cancel on the day of my wedding, and how dare you talk about your best friend like that? Oh, one other thing. Since I have you right now, I'm thinking about ending this friendship between you and I. I don't need a good friend who's on the path to becoming a lowlife herself. From today, you are no longer my friend anymore. That's right. You and I are no longer friends anymore. Your fault for getting married to a moneyless man like that. Now, you go and take me off the list, please. And forget about that promise I made to you about the speech. As the wife of a CEO, I can't be going to the wedding of the poor. Well, your husband, the CEO, is here. What? But you're not going to be coming now, right? I'll have to go and let him know that his wife will no longer be here today to give her speech with him. He told me that if you weren't going to come, he'd be willing to give a speech for me as well. So I need to go chat with him right now. Bye-bye. Huh? You hold it right there. What do you mean my husband is at your wedding right now? Why the hell would my husband be going to the wedding of a man from a fatherless, poor household? I only learned about this a little bit ago. Your husband and mine both went to the same university together. And not just that, but your husband was a year later than mine, yet they still became really good friends with one another. Are you kidding me? Your husband happens to run a company, right? And it's not just him, but his parents as well who run companies, right? That's right. Both of his parents have been running financing companies and have a ton of money themselves. And I became the wife of such a wealthy family. So why would my husband be willing to make friends with some moneyless man like your husband? Since the both of his parents had companies to manage, your husband never really had time to spend with them, right? I hear that your husband never even had a bite of any of the food that his mother could supposedly cook. Anyway, he went to university with my husband, and that's where they both became really good friends. And sometimes when they'd finish class, he'd go over to my husband's mother's place to stay the night. And at that time, he was able to enjoy all of the cooking that his mother would make. Then that led to them becoming even closer to one another, like they were both brothers or something. They're that close to one another? Even his mother likes to call him her second son, and your husband likes to call her his mother at times. That's the level those three are on. What? I always heard stories from my husband about how he had this really amazing friend from back in university. But then he'd explain to me that he'd became a very busy man, and that's why he was never able to go out and see him very often anymore. Today was the first time I've ever been able to see him, and my husband's first time seeing him for some time. But I never once knew that he was going to be your husband, of all people. Well, now that you mention it, he was saying that today he'd be going out to his friend's wedding, but I never thought that friend would be your husband. I never thought he was good friends with a poor loser who never had a father. He's just as shocked as we are. We never thought that there'd be such a connection between the three of us. But after having all been able to talk about it now, we can see just how crazy of a coincidence this has been. No way. And while we've been talking, you still had not arrived, and we joked for a second about how you might say you weren't coming last minute. We also joked with your husband about how if you didn't show up, he'd be able to give the speech for both my husband and I. I just never thought these jokes would become a reality, and I'd have to go ask your husband for such a thing. I can come out there right now. I'll even give that speech for you, so don't tell my husband anything. Don't take away that seat you have for me. Oh, don't force yourself to be here. Didn't you just tell me that you wouldn't come today so that you wouldn't trip up your husband any? I think as his wife, you being able to do such a selfless thing for you makes you a wonderful wife. So please don't worry about being here today. I promise to tell your husband what a thoughtful reason you had for not being here today. No! Stop that! Stop that! I am asking you to please not say anything to him. The wedding's going to start pretty soon here. See ya, Bristol. Why would you do this to me? After that wedding, you had my husband come home and he was furious with me. He came at me saying that I'd really gone and done it by embarrassing his best friend like that. If this ends up getting me divorced, I don't know what I'm going to do about you. My husband was never embarrassed by anything you did. Your husband gave such beautiful speeches for the both of us yesterday, and that left both my husband and myself very pleased. How could I have known they were great friends since university? I tried to tell him that, yet my husband didn't listen to a thing I told him. I am asking you to please have a word with him about how I'll apologize. No way. Why would I go and do that for someone who isn't even my friend? Huh? Yesterday you asked me that we stop being friends, right? If you were my friend, I think I'd be okay with trying to help calm down your husband and all. But since we're not friends anymore, your life has nothing to do with me. Then you let me talk with your husband right now. If your husband starts to talk with mine, then he'll have to listen to him, right? So I want to talk with him right now and have him tell my husband now not to leave me. Then my husband will have to listen to his good friend and leave me be.
That guy would never listen to such a stupid thing from me. Sure, I may be a good friend of his, but he's not some idiot.
What?
Hello, and thanks for having been a friend to my wife. I'm her husband, Andy.
I'm sorry for not showing up yesterday, but I didn't do it on purpose. I just had a lot of things mixed up was all.
No need to give me such poor excuses. I heard from my wife that you loved calling me poor due to the fact that my mom and dad got divorced and I never saw him again.
No, wait, that was,
Now I'll go see what your husband has to say about this. And after he tells me how he feels, I'll let him know to get rid of you as soon as possible.
What?
The thing is, to me, your husband is a very special kind of friend. I would really like to see him happy, and if you're the one thing keeping him from being happy, then I need you to go. I don't find you the right fit for being my buddy's wife.
Why are you saying something like that? Until yesterday, he and I were really close to one another. And we were told by everyone that he and I were always meant to be.
You're meant to be with someone you always lied to? Also, he's been aware of your lies for a long time now, Bristol.
What are these lies you're talking about?
He's talking to me about them all the time, one being that you always bragged about being a good cook. And after getting married, he wanted you to cook for him all the time. However, recently, it seems he realized that you're not the great cook you always say you are after all. You happen to buy all the things you say you cook from a restaurant down the road.
What?
He was going on about you all last night at the after party. He was so fed up with you that he looked like a crazed man saying all the things he'd want to do to you now. He told us all that it was one thing being lied to by his wife about the things she'd done and that he could put up with it all for a while. But after you'd gone and said such terrible things about my wife and I and stood up our wedding, he'd had enough.
What am I going to do? I didn't think he'd find out about the restaurant's food.
I know very well how much my man loves to have good food. He always loved what my mom would cook for him, and that left him wanting a wife who could cook just as well. And when I heard for the first time that he'd married someone who could cook so well for him, I was left feeling thankful for that. Which is why now, after learning about your lies, I ask that you leave him. I don't want a woman like you around my friend anymore.
No way I'm leaving him. I would never give up my life with a man of so much money now of all times. You listen here. You're still the poor one here, so don't do anything to get in the way of me and my money. Don't act like you're better than me just because he's your best friend. You're nothing more than a fatherless, poor sucker.
You're right. I never grew up with a father. But ever since I can remember, my mom's been running her own business. And as for me, while working as an office man, I've run a store of my own, so you don't have any right calling my mom or me poor.
What? Is that true?
I'm making around the same amount your husband is right now, and that's another reason why he and I are so close to one another. We both like to talk about how we run our businesses and what we can both do to improve them. It's actually quite a fun time talking with him about all these things.
You're lying. Making that much money even though you never had a dad?
Now, I'm gonna have a word with him for you, so don't get in the way of this outcome, please. Your status never once went up just because you got married to a CEO, like you believe. All you are is a wife to him. That doesn't make you anyone special. And to most CEOs, that just makes you their pet. So don't think you have the right to judge anyone like you're better than them.
Shut up! I'm not going to be divorced by him.
I wonder about that. What you were saying is that because I'm his best friend, he'll have to listen to what I say, right? So when I go and tell him to divorce you, he should be able to listen to that and do as I've said. I want you to be ready for this divorce from him now, because all you are to him is some basic woman he could find again easily after you're gone. Now don't you ever talk to my wife again, myself again, or to my best friend ever again.
After that, Bristol and her husband really did end up getting a divorce that she'd been so desperately trying to avoid. And thankfully for me, I made sure to block her after Andy gave me back my phone. So I never had to hear anything else directly from her. For a bit there, her husband had been on the fence about really telling her to leave him, but after Andy went and told him about how not only he wanted her gone, but so did his mother, and so did a lot of their other friends, he made that choice to get the divorce. A little while after that had gone down, he started to pay my mother-in-law $1,000 a month to cook him some of her best meals a few times a month. As for Bristol and what happened with her after the divorce, she stopped posting about her life on her main account, and on her secret accounts, she'd say things like, "I can't do this anymore and my life is over, so please could someone love me?" Such sad and depressing posts like that would go on for weeks and months. And soon those all stopped as well, as not a single person actually cared about what happened to her, and she was left with no likes or replies to any of her posts. I'm not sure what's happened to her since she stopped posting anything on any of her accounts, but the last time I went and had one final look, every single one of the accounts had been erased, and that was the last bit of Bristol gone from existence.